Hey everybody, it's me, Jake from Jakin.Off. Thanks for tuning in to another episode. This week, I'm joined by a very special guest. Give it up for Evan Goldt, everybody. Let him hear it. Let Evan hear it. You can follow Evan on Instagram at Evan C. Goldt on Instagram. And, give Evan a follow. And you can also find his Pokemon content on YouTube at here_Ferd. I couldn't keep it up anymore. Yeah, make sure you give Evan a follow at Evan C. Goldt and at here_Ferd if you love that Pokemon shit. If you're into that Pokemon shit. This episode, we kind of just sort of dunk on some Trump voters who got fired from their federal worker jobs. So we really just fucking slammed on them. And if you enjoy it, if you like it, then make sure you follow this podcast at Jakin.Off.Podcast on Instagram and TikTok, and like and subscribe to us on YouTube because we're doing this kind of stuff all the time. And you can send anything at all to Jakin.Off.Podcast at gmail.com. I'll look at it at least once. That's the Jakin.Off guarantee. But without further ado, enjoy the episode. Have a good listen to the episode.
Oh, won't you take off with me? Oh, I know it's your fantasy. Oh, won't you take off with me? Yeah, we're taking off every week.
And yeah, he recorded it. That's his job as a videographer. So
Yeah.
he said I should get it in about a month. I think it should be really good for fests.
Yeah, that rules.
It's something I've needed for a long time, and I was just a little more cognizant about only do the good jokes. You know what I mean? I was don't pander at all. Just do your favorite jokes. Do your favorite 20 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
And I didn't do I don't know. It went really well. It was a good show.
Nice. Yeah. Hell yeah.
It was
I'm
me,
happy for
Mick,
you.
and Cassie, and one local
That's
lady.
a good crew. So y'all rode down there together?
Yeah, we went out together. It was a really nice time.
That sounds like such a pleasant experience.
Very relaxing car rides.
Yeah.
And except for crazy winds and just smoke-filled skies on the way there and back. I was on our way there, I was like, were there fires? And they were like, no, I think it's just dust that the wind kicked up. I was like, okay, I guess that makes sense. And then on the way back, it was like, no, that's smoke. I'm smelling smoke for sure.
Yeah.
And that was kind of dystopian and fucked up. But
we drove kind of in the opposite direction.
Right.
So on our way to Springfield, Missouri last night, I was performing at 4x4 Brewing in Springfield for Next Stop Comedy.
Yeah.
And this is, one thing that was a bummer to find out is they didn't text us the lineup for the order for the show or anything or set times until the day of. But I've done a show with this company before that I headlined that was in Kansas City, and they paid me $300 to headline this show. Wow. And so the whole deal was you get $300 as long as the show happens. If they cancel the show, you'll still get $150.
Sure.
And I was like, sign me up. But I was like, I want the show to happen because I want $300. I want 300 buckaroonies.
Right.
And so I told my mom, I was like, Mom, invite anyone you want. I was like, whatever.
I think I remember this.
Because in my mind, I'm like, well, it's if they're paying $300 to me, a guy who lives down the street,
right.
You know what I mean? The
least I can do is try to.
Well, not the least I can do. I was assuming oh, they're going to be getting people to this show probably. They must have some methodology of ensuring that these shows are going to sell tickets. And that wasn't the case. I fucking did 45 minutes of comedy to the every 60-year-old person that I know in my life. And I mean, it's dude, I don't think that just because somebody is older they can't enjoy my comedy, but the older people in my family specifically, the biggest laughs that I got were my Aunt Sharon went to the bathroom during my set. and I kept talking about how she took a big stinky shit in the bathroom.
I probably did like 10 minutes on the answer and stinky shit.
I went back to that well multiple times.
I'm sure.
And I went back to the Aunt Sharon shit in the bathroom because the bathroom is like right next to where I was performing because it was at
You're like, anyway, I
Cinder
jerk
Block.
off in front of my cat.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys thought that joke was shitty.
Yeah.
But not as shitty as Aunt Sharon's giant butthole, am I right? Like, was it more or less like that?
Yeah. And so, but I got paid my $300. And so then I
Nice.
get booked on this show again. And so I'm thinking like, okay, it's down in Springfield. Like,
Sure.
I'm like, I got paid pretty good last time. Like,
Right.
And you know, it wasn't like a showcase. There was 3 of us on the show.
Right.
And so then I get the lineup and we're all doing like 10 minutes. So it's like kind of this slap in the face where I
It's
went
like a
from getting paid-
40-minute show.
Yeah, I went, there ended up being like 6 people on this show.
Oh, got it.
So there's
Okay.
more people, everybody's doing less time. It's like more of a showcase style thing. But I
Sure.
was like, man, I really went from getting paid $300 to do this show to getting paid what's probably
You
gonna
gotta-
be way less.
Yeah, you got like a fucking $250 pay cut and a 35-minute infraction. That's wild.
And so I was like dealing with that on the way down there, and it was just pouring rain, dude. We drove straight into the rainstorm.
We didn't have to do like any rain, thank God.
We drove straight into the rainstorm the entire way there. It's like seriously raining so hard, and it was me, Dustin, and Morgan
Cochran, right?
Yes.
Yeah, she's really funny.
Yeah, so we were all riding down there. It's pouring rain. We get there, and immediately we get the gear unloaded, and right when we're done unloading it, like perfect timing, there's a tornado warning. And it's like hailing.
Warning,
like there's
not
hailing.
watch.
Yeah, warning.
Fuck
and it's
off.
like there's like it's like hailing down and stuff like that. And
I would be fucking
yeah, it was
miserable.
insane.
Yeah.
It was like not great, but we got there. We were there, so it was just nice to be out of the car. And then the show happened, and the show was pretty good because Morgan's from Springfield.
Oh, that's cool.
And so a bunch of her friends came, and they were really great
I
audience
still have
members.
never performed in Springfield, but I hear that there's some really fun comedy that happens there.
Yeah,
I know they have
it
a
was a
Don't
good
Tell,
time.
and they have like a really good comedy club.
Yeah, I had a nice time. I hadn't been there in a long time, but
Yeah.
it was good. And then
I've been meaning to get down there. I just never.
we fucking drove home, and it was smoky as fuck
Yeah.
the entire way.
Yeah, it was eerie when I
My
walked into my
eyes.
Casey and I's eyes, my throat still to this point in the day, like I'm
To
like
this day.
to this point in the day.
Yeah. You were about to say to this day.
I almost did, but I saved myself. And you chose to make fun of what could have happened instead of acknowledging what did.
Yeah.
An excellent verbal save from me. No, it was fucked up. I've been dreading this kind of shit my entire adult life, knowing like global warming is just what's the meme? Like somebody was like, well, global warming is going to look like is not like a disaster flick where like one day something crazy happens. It's going to look like ever increasing extreme weather happening closer and closer to you until it's you on your phone,
when we were on our way home, we stopped at like a Casey's or something like that.
What do you talk about?
And we were standing, we were standing outside briefly waiting for Dustin to get out there to like unlock the car.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is going to happen more.
Oh, for
like,
sure.
This is going to like start happening more frequently. Like, I don't know if I can remember a time where there were fires in southeastern Kansas and Oklahoma that were so bad that it blew smoke here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if
It's
that's
kind of
something
my-
I've ever experienced, and I've lived here more or less my entire life.
Yeah, it's
So,
it is absolutely my least favorite thing to think and talk about.
yeah. Well, the good news is that we're not going to be talking about it today.
Tight. Sick.
But I did want to bring up my story about Springfield because in a way I kind of got a bit of a demotion. I kind of got, in a way I got fired, sort of, you could say.
Well, it's like, especially if they just weren't upfront with you, because you, like you said about like time and lineup didn't get sent to you day of. It's like,
Yeah.
Well, last time I did a show for you guys, the pay and the amount of stage time was.
So I will say that the one sort of like thing that I left out of my story is that both times I was booked by 2 different people who
Interesting.
were running
okay.
basically like essentially like two different shows.
Got it. But
So-
the same like company.
Yeah, but I was doing that out of convenience for my narrative. And now that you've brought it up, I just don't want to throw too much dirt on this thing.
No, I
Because
don't
they
feel like
didn't-
you're
I don't
throwing
think they
dirt.
actually did anything fucked up.
I
to
feel
me.
like you're just posting your L's online.
Yeah, I am posting my L's, but I did want to use that as a way to parlay into talking about all of the news stories that have been going around about people who voted for Donald Trump and then got fired from their federal jobs.
What the fuck is going on? Doge.
Evan, are you familiar with the term Schadenfreude?
Yes.
Yes. So
I
just
sprechen
explain
Sie
to
Deutsch.
explain to listeners
poquito.
your conception of what
Poco Deutsch.
Schadenfreude is.
Schadenfreude is the enjoyment, the relishing of someone else's pain.
Yeah.
You see somebody else in pain, you're like, ooh, that feels good. Either because you're a sadist or because they totally deserve it.
Yes. So that is a great way to describe it. For most of us, like non-sociopathic, like normal people,
Right.
this really occurs when somebody gets their comeuppance. Like when somebody who's a piece of shit like gets what goes around comes around finally, and we get to experience that little smug gratification, you know?
Like when somebody finally slapped Chris Rock.
Okay, I was gonna. That's funny you bring that up. I was gonna ask if you have a particular memory of like a time where you really felt this sort of feeling. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Off the top of my head, no, I'm not. I can't think of anything like because I don't have anything against Chris Rock or Will Smith,
Right.
but the slap is an instance where I was like, this is only fun for me. You know what I mean? And it was a terrible thing in both of those guys' lives. It's like a bad thing that happened to those guys, but I was like, I love this. So that is Schadenfreude for sure. But like, I feel like of the like, oh, come, you had that shit coming.
There was
like,
never like a
nothing's-
time when you were a kid where like maybe like a kid who was like a bully got fucking.
Well, I mean, yeah, that brings up a specific memory. There was this kid whose last name literally rhymed with Killjoy, who was like a year older than me in grade school and lived close to me and was just kind of a general like nuisance, like just like really annoying to be around. One time I was like waiting at my school for like a while, like much longer than usual after school with my buddy Joel because he was waiting on a ride from his parents. And this guy, we found good sticks. Like young ones do, good old sticks, and
some sticks,
and treated them like swords, and started having our sword fights. Right. This kid shows up, gets two big as hell, like flexible, like giant switches, basically.
Yeah.
And starts joining in despite our protestations, and then like
no,
has me
stop.
like hitting me with two.
Oh my
like,
god!
And I'm on the ground like I'm
General
curled up.
Grievous.
Yeah. And then I have a stick in my hand, and without even looking, I threw it at him. It hit him right here.
Oh my
and
god!
He had to go get stitches by his eye. They were like, you might lose the eye because there's a lot of blood. And so that was not fun for me yet. I had my first panic attack, Evan's first panic attack that day. I ran to my friend's street, my friend's house, who was like right across the street from the school. And just his mom was home, and I was like crying so bad she couldn't understand what I was saying.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay. And eventually I got it out that can I use the phone? And so I used the phone to like call my mom, and I'm just like crying over the phone. And neither of them are like, they don't care. Obviously I didn't do anything that bad. And this kid ended up fucking fine. But like I get home, my mom like is fine. Everything's fine. The panic attack's over. The next day, I get ISS. I get in-school suspension for my first time ever. I get it for 2 days.
Yeah.
What grade are you in?
I'm 5th grade. He's 6th grade.
Okay.
So he doesn't fucking get in trouble at all. But I'm walking through the hallway at one point, and I see him in line with his class to go to recess or whatever. And the teacher, Mrs. Conley, shout out Mrs. Conley, my favorite teacher of all time, my 6th grade teacher the next year, and my sister's the year, like a few years before, is just chewing him out like hard fucking core for like being like a bad student, for being in trouble. He's not able to enjoy recess. He's like out of recess or whatever. And I swear she looked at me and was like, she didn't wink, but it felt like a wink. She looked at me like, this is not your fault. Like, you know what I mean?
That's crazy.
It ruled. I love that teacher and I hate that kid.
And that's when you felt the Schadenfreude.
Yes, I did. I was like, fucking have that,
yeah,
bitch.
dude.
I'm glad you got stitches.
Have that, bitch. I'm glad you got stitches, bitch.
That's what it brought to mind. Also, one time I burnt my neck at work at the new theater on like a hot tray. Burnt my neck and it hurt. And I complained about it at home with Casey. And then she was like, stop complaining. And then the next day she burnt her neck in the exact same place. And she was like, I'm sorry. So that's Schadenfreude too.
Yeah.
I was like, we'll bring it up. Neck burn.
Yeah.
Like when one of us isn't sensitive to the other one's issue and then that person experiences like a similar thing,
Yeah.
we're like, neck burn.
It's a neck burn.
You got neck burned.
That's funny. So yeah, that's basically like how most normal people experience it. Some people try to like make it shameful. Like they think that it's like you should feel ashamed for like
Ever delighting in anyone's pain.
Yes. And I think that it's more of like an emotional grandstanding kind of thing that people are doing than it is anything actually good.
I feel like it's very Protestant.
Yeah, and it's just a very normal thing to experience. Like there are pieces of shit, and when shitty things happen to bad people, it's like it does feel good.
Yeah,
and it's okay to like.
It's fun even to watch your
revel in
friend
it a little
trip
bit.
if they don't actually hurt themselves.
Yes,
you know what I mean. It's fun to watch
exactly.
somebody you love like fart on accident and get embarrassed or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to
And this
enjoy.
is precisely sort of why I wanted to talk about this first, because what we're going to do today is really honestly like laughing and like mocking probably is what's going to end up happening. Like these people who voted for Donald Trump and then they got fired and lost their jobs because he followed through on the things that he said he was going to do. And personally for me, I think that, you know, while I'm not necessarily happy that this happened to a bunch of people, I do think that it is okay and kind of important in a sense to make sure that we hold them accountable at least, and not by going, oh, like you guys didn't mean it or something like that, but because if this was somebody that I knew personally, like if any of these people were somebody that I knew personally, and like especially if it was somebody that I was close to, I would be mocking them endlessly. I would be like, you idiot, like why did you do that? Like I wouldn't be giving them a lot of grace, I don't think. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that it would be helpful. It's not helpful to any of these people. Like they knew better.
Yeah.
They knew better.
Yeah.
Because this guy was gonna do this stuff, and they liked it. They just didn't think it was gonna happen to them.
Well, and I think
really what it is.
Also, I think a lot of people are single issue voters, and the issue is, I'm not wrong. Like I am not wrong.
Yeah.
Like, and so whatever thing they feel going into an election season, they're not going to change their mind. They're just going to watch the media that supports their opinion and shape their opinion. I know as a person who has had like cognitive dissonance with politicians. Yeah. Like I've never been more disenchanted with like politicians as people. I used to actually have respect and admiration for some, and I no longer do. Yeah. You know? And
it's really tough. I don't know how anyone would at this point.
Right.
Like,
ultimately, though, like I remember explicitly having moments like during the Obama presidency as like a teenager where I'd be like, hope and change. I've got the shirt to prove it. You know, I'm all on board for this.
If they weren't going to do that, why would they put it on this shirt?
Exactly. And then I would hear about drone strikes on weddings and hospitals and be like, you know, that was probably like, maybe that was an accident, or like, you know what I mean? You just don't even engage. You like come up with half an excuse and then you try never to think about it ever again. And it's like, so I know I feel incredibly confident that most conservatives are like that too. Like most liberals, most conservatives hear something that is abhorrent about these people that they are supporting and just go like, well, I just won't think about that one. You know, I like the stuff he says about trans people.
that's one thing, but what about this? People are constantly like whatabouting themselves in as a means to sort of like make their own thoughts and opinions feel valid, right? Like it's a thing that people do to like argue disingenuously, but I also think it's a thing that people do internally to themselves oftentimes.
A big thing about privileged people, I feel like I encounter it in the most, is that like they just like arguing.
Yes.
It's like a little fun activity for them, and they like, and a lot of times that comes in the form of like, this is something I dealt with as a kid, like from adults and kids, where like they thought it was funny to upset you.
Yeah.
You know, they think it's funny when people get upset, and or like they just enjoy making people upset.
And especially arguing from like a devil's advocate sort of like position, like
why do you want to be that guy's advocate?
What's the fucking term?
Fucking pessimist.
Not pessimism is definitely part of it, but it's like not contradictory. It starts with a C. I can't remember the word right now.
I was distracted by the cat. Is it cat? That's a C word.
No. God damn it. Not contradictory, but they're
Contrarian.
Contrarians.
Yeah.
Yes. People who are contrarians, because frankly, like I don't think that there's anything wrong with like arguing in good faith about things that you actually believe, but so many times these people don't actually believe
They don't
anything.
believe shit.
Yeah,
No.
it's the only thing they believe is like whatever's gonna like help them the most.
Must be right.
And sort of
Must be the best thing.
Exactly. Personally,
If I benefit.
Yeah, whatever's going to personally benefit them the most is like their belief system, and that changes constantly. Like that's constantly fluctuating for these fucking people. But we're going to get into it. I just realized this was unplugged. Before we dive into some specific cases of this shit happening to people, I did just want to talk about like sort of where this stuff comes from, which a lot of this is rooted in this sort of mission to completely just like destroy the federal government.
Yeah.
And it's kind of been like a conservative project that's been ongoing since basically like the wake of the New Deal. Like this is something that
they've just wanted to dismantle every social program forever. I mean,
And not even just social programs, but just any sort of mediation between the state and the economy. Like that's like really ultimately the end goal. And a lot of it has to do with, people who believe in this kind of stuff now will argue like, no, they're just operating on some sort of like libertarian kind of set of values. A lot of them are religious fundamentalists as well. But they act as if this is like informed by libertarianism, but really the root of this and the history of this kind of stuff is like white supremacy and like colonialism and things like that. Of course.
Yeah, like it's like the people that already have the most stuff and the most power benefit from a free market, because they can control it.
Yes, exactly.
Like,
and so it's been a goal of theirs for a while, and. One of these guys, he's a part of the Trump administration now, the Office of Management and Budget. His name is Russell Vought, I actually think is how it's pronounced. Vought. And he specifically said these words. He wants to put federal employees, put them in trauma, is like his goal. Like he wants to dismantle the federal government in such a radical way that it actually traumatizes the people who were part of that system, because what these guys have sort of come to believe is that, in past administrations, they have sort of like, they haven't gone as far as this, right? Where they just sort of like dial down everything like a lot as much as they possibly can. And what these guys want to do is they want to make it so that even if they lose power, this stuff cannot easily be rebuilt. That's ultimately the goal, and it's going to be successful, I think, is like the sad part about it. But I just think it's important to sort of talk about a little bit like the roots of this, right? Like who's doing this and why. Here's a clip of this guy talking about it. This is from ProPublica. The piece that was just on the screen is also from ProPublica. But this is Russell Vaught.
A new Trump administration must move quickly and decisively to turn the tables on the left by using the powers that have been delegated to the American state, the American government. This is the dragon smog's underbelly that lacks the scales that protect the belly. It is their Achilles heel. Because they never passed a constitutional amendment, they have to rely on the precedents and the paradigms. Their entire apparatus is exposed to our strategy. They are exposed to a president who, if he's a radical constitutionalist, who chooses to think and act like Thomas Jefferson or James Madison. And guess what? We have in Donald Trump a man who is so uniquely positioned to serve this role, a man whose own interests perfectly align with the interests of the country. He has seen what it has done to him, and he has seen what they are trying to do to the country. That is nothing more than a gift of God. Of course, this is why they fear him so much.
So, yeah. These guys are coming to rob you, and they're going to do it. And the reason why I bring this up is not to... because like I said, this isn't like these people getting fired. It's not stuff that I wanted to happen, but it's important to talk about this first before we because these were speeches that this guy was giving before Donald Trump got elected, right? Like, it's not like this is stuff that was already there before he got elected. These people all knew better. That's what this is highlighting, is like, not like, oh man, this was what was at stake the entire time. And it's going to, really harm people and stuff like that. So, like, I think the very least that we can do, if there's any sense of justice in the world, is mock some of the people responsible.
Yeah, totally fair.
And so we are going to start off with one of the ones that I think is quite delectable. This is the title of this one is Fired Federal Worker Who Voted for Trump Speaks Out. So this is a short clip from CNN, but this talks about a story that went sort of like nationally viral. It was originally a story by the Washington Post, and then this lady started like making the rounds, and we're gonna get a lot of this lady's perspective. And Evan, do you want to guess? Well, you don't have to guess. I already said it was a lady. It's a white lady, of course.
Oh, I love that. That's my favorite kind of lady,
of course. Well, go ahead.
I just love white people.
Aren't they the best?
We are all delightful.
But the lady who's doing this interview, I don't know her name, but she is a black woman, and it's almost like, I don't think she intends it to come off this way, but her facial expressions and that kind of stuff are like so patronizing. It's really awesome. So here is a clip about a lady who got fired.
24-year-old Michigan native Riley Cooper was just let go by the U.S. Forest Service and shared her heartbreaking story with the Washington Post. You see, Riley has dreamed of becoming a mother. After a doctor told her that IVF could be her only hope of having children, she turned to Trump, who had promised on the campaign trail to fully cover the procedure. It ended up being the very reason she cast her ballot for President Trump this past November.
So, in other words, just to pause briefly to explain to everybody, this lady thought that Donald Trump was going to make IVF free.
You can see here, give me a baby.
You can see here in the Washington Post article, Cooper, 24, and her husband were trying to get pregnant, but the doctor said that IVF might be her best chance. Trump had promised to make it free.
I'll get all of you pregnant. I'll get every pregnant that wants pregnant. I do it. Free pregnant. I'm very free.
How stupid can you be? Like, you really think that Donald Trump is going to make IVF free? Like, I just can't imagine like how this woman makes it through every day without great harm coming to her, like getting scammed out of all of her money or something like that, you know?
Yeah, I really have a hard time empathizing with that level of
ignorance. It's ignorance. I mean,
I mean, and self-centeredness.
Oh, right.
It's like
just wait till you hear her talk.
Okay, let's keep going.
Just wait until you hear her talk.
Riley Cooper joins me now. Riley, welcome. Thank you for sharing your story. And I wonder, what was it like for you when you got the news that you were being let go?
It was really hard. I was on the phone with my best friend, Kaylee, at the time, and we were just discussing her life and how things were going. And I looked at my phone, and I had...
Of course, it's a lady named Riley whose best friend is named Kaylee. You know, like,
and you know they're spelled with like 17 letters.
Yeah, exactly. That, I mean, god damn. Like,
yeah, her name is spelled RYLEIGH. Riley.
And you know
Cooper.
Kaylee spelled the exact same way. Go on.
At my phone, and I had gotten a text from our union rep, and he told me that I was going to be fired the next day. And I told her, I have to go. I'm getting fired tomorrow. And my heart just sank.
I'm so sorry this is happening, and the frustration you must be feeling, and perhaps anxiety about what's next. And of course, we're hearing a lot about following the campaign and the elections, about the mandate that people wanted to see a streamlined government, that they want to be able to right-size it in some way and rid of waste and fraud. That was not the motivating reason you were voting for President Trump. Does that impact the way you see any of this?
Yeah, it's hard from my perspective to approach the current administration with hope. You know, I've been dealing with infertility now for about a year. I've had multiple surgeries in my life.
Who fucking cares? Adopt a fucking kid. If you believe in God, God has told you, hey, please just adopt one of the ones that already exists. I think I'm not trying to judge anyone that gets in vitro fertilization or whatever. Yeah. Like, obviously, you do what you got to do what you want to do or whatever. I just think, like, as a voting issue and as like a thing that you're trying to make people feel like that much sorry for, I just think it's fucking silly, personally.
I think that the way that she,
I get that that's deeply insensitive.
I think the way that she is using it to inform her voting decisions is bad. Like, I think there are plenty of people who think of in vitro fertilization or something like that.
Yeah.
And then the conclusion they come to is, like, still the right conclusion, you know?
Sure, yeah.
This lady just purely believed that this guy was going to make it free for her. And so then she voted for Donald Trump. And it's like, I just don't understand how she like, believed this, but then, like, ignored all the other evidence that this was, like, not going to be how it was. You know, and still, like, went through with the whole thing, if that makes sense. Like, that's what I have a hard time wrapping my head around with this lady specifically, is she seemingly just, like, doesn't understand anything. Maybe. I don't know. She's a moron.
I am, like, I've been flirting with antinatalism for a while without even having a term for it.
Do you want to explain what that is?
Yeah, just like the idea that, like, we shouldn't be operating under the idea that having children is, like, some great act. Mm-hmm. Or even a good thing to do. Like, I honestly feel,
I think that's
especially, I'm not, like, an overpopulation guy. I think that's, you know, usually a dog whistle for, like, racist bullshit. Yeah. But what I feel is that we are, like, probably, the world is probably going to be uninhabitable in 100 years. Like, I really don't think there's any distinct
come at us pretty fast
effort that's preventing the total collapse of our fucking ecosystem. And I think the science has been clear for decades on that. And so I think it's one of those things where, like, having children at all, I think is at the very least a little irresponsible right now. Like, you know, if things got a little more hopeful, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's how I feel personally.
Yeah.
And that's like the biggest deciding factor in why I'm not going to have kids at all.
Right.
And so like, I just think like, look, if you have children, I'm not judging you for having children. Like, I don't think you should act like it's the end of the world just because it seems likely. Like something could always work out, and then, you know, obviously like we would want the world to go on. So babies need to be had. But I think it's really fucking silly to act like you're some great victim of some huge thing just because you're infertile or whatever.
Yeah.
I can sympathize with you. I can see why that would hurt and be sucky. But I think, honestly, on the priority list of, like, the human race, number one should be climate for everyone.
Yeah.
And then in vitro fertilization is probably, like, number 10,004. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so far down on the fucking list.
There really are plenty of other things that I think people... Like, I think that anybody who is... First of all, I think that, broadly speaking, like, being a... single issue voter is like kind of like a weird I think that it's important to like care about a lot of issues, you know what I mean, and there's like a lot of things that like we need to be concerned about, but being a single issue voter over something like IVF for free is like a crazy in this point in time, especially though.
Yes.
Like in this political moment,
in this moment
right now,
it's
it
an
is like
absurd
especially not chill
to prioritize to that extent.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I'm gonna let her speak a little more on that.
Let's hear it, Riley.
Yeah, Riley. I just love this reporter, dude. Wait until
that must be so hard for you.
She gets into like more like facial expressions later, like as it goes on, as this lady gets more and more ridiculous.
I'm looking forward to it.
I've had multiple surgeries in my life. So, you know, going into the voting booth, the main thing on my mind was the same thing I'd been thinking about for the past 11 months. And it was, you know, I want to be a mom. And women who have gone through that experience, that heartbreaking feeling of wanting something that you might never have, they understand how much of your time is taken up with those thoughts and how overwhelming and lonely it can feel. So as someone who is more of a swing voter, you know, sometimes that's what it comes down to, is those single issues. Because when you step into the voting booth, you know, you're thinking of what's important to you and like the issues that are resonating with you in that moment. And for me in that moment, like it took me a while, and I made a decision that looking back, I'm not proud of, but it's the reality of my situation now.
Riley, do you now regret the way you voted for Trump?
I do feel regret, and I've had a lot of
the fact
tumultuous
that she
thoughts about
to think about it. She's like, I would flash in her head. She's like, do hate immigrants, but do feel regret. Like
that is the other thing that I forgot to mention, and I mean they probably said it at this point. This lady is from Michigan. It's not like this is some woman that's
in Nebraska
like
whose vote isn't gonna fucking matter. Jesus Christ.
This is like a swing state voter, and that's the same for all of the people that we're going to be mocking today too.
Great.
So it's like I just like can't believe that she literally said the words, like she basically might as well have been, when I got into that voting booth, I was thinking about myself. And
I want
what
baby.
mattered to me.
I want baby Trump give baby.
Yeah, the idea
Trump
that
give baby.
he'll get them all pregnant.
Twump, give me pregnant, twump. She can't say her R's now. My name is Wiley.
Also,
Wiley Cooper.
she's 24.
Yeah.
She said her whole life at one point, but then said the last 11 months. She's been going.
That is her whole life.
Yeah.
The last 11 months.
She actually is a robot. She just got manufactured 11 months ago. Yeah, and do you want to take a guess on where she works? Like what government agency she worked for? Because you're thinking you probably got to think, right, like based off of what she's saying, that it's like somewhere you would never expect Donald Trump to do.
I think she works for the IRS.
You think she works for the IRS?
That's my guess.
Brett,
for
do you have
some
a guess?
reason.
Oh God, it's gotta be something that's decent. Department of Education, maybe.
Okay, those are both good guesses. This lady works for the National Forestry Service. It's like you could not be more on the chopping block to this fucking guy. He literally goes around saying, "Drill, baby, drill."
Yeah.
Like, what do you
Oh my
think they're
fucking
gonna
God.
do to the trees?
Let's crack them parks.
Can't wait to go to a Six Flags on Yellowstone.
Yeah, dude. Hell yeah.
It'll be awesome when the guys
Another
are...
Worlds of Fun. Camp Snoopy too. It can be right on the fucking Old Faithful geyser. Dude, the only beautiful part about that would be eventually that
The super
like
volcano.
the super volcano would erupt and kill everybody there. Whoever's there.
The super volcano will kill everyone
Yeah.
in the world, probably.
Those fossils would be so fun, though.
Those are fossils, or the Six
Six Flags
The,
fossils.
the Six Flags fossils.
Yeah.
This is a fossilized roller coaster.
Yeah.
It's
It's just
Batman.
I'm a future octopus.
they have like the bones of a man going like this hanging from the ceiling of like a museum.
And the old guy, like,
Somebody with their arms up on a roller coaster and some like they're like, this was a dog who lived on top of a house. Because it's Camp Snoopy, dude. Right? Didn't he sleep on top of the doghouse?
he sure
a lot?
does. Yeah. He likes the stars.
Yeah. Forestry Service. Yeah, this lady's a dumb idiot. She's a fucking moron, dude.
Yep.
And we're going to move on to another moron. So this is a BuzzFeed article, and there's actually like several of these that are in here.
Oh,
And
okay. Good examples of people being fucking idiots.
yeah, a lot of these are posts. There's one specific video that I put this on here to watch, but like this one I thought is like insane. This person, it just says, Gen Z here. My husband works for the government, and he had just gotten promoted in August. We don't have buyer's remorse, but we really don't like the uncertainty of him possibly getting fired. Sounds like you got a little buyer's remorse. He's a good man who really cares about his job and works really hard. He's one of the most efficient guys there, but he might be punished for wanting to move up the ladder. That I don't like. I don't regret voting for who I did. I just pray that my husband doesn't lose his job, as we have a traditional relationship and he is our sole provider.
Oh my fucking God.
Yeah, dude. I hope that lady's husband lost his job.
Loses his job.
Yeah, loose his job. Gen Z here. It turns out Gen Z is just as bad as all of us. Huh?
Gen Z
turns out that
is
it's just
worse
as
than
bhan.
millennials.
Yeah, it's
Gen
crazy.
Z is worse than millennials because manosphere bullshit,
Andrew
alt-right,
Tate, dude.
Twitter and
General brain
YouTube.
rot.
Yeah, it's just gotten so bad. And also shitty liberals are annoying as hell and made it really easy for those people to be like, aren't those people
Yes.
annoying?
Yeah,
Because they were.
liberals are and yeah, they're like responsible for Andrew Tate as well.
It's just one of those things where like
You've given nobody anywhere else to turn besides like fascism, and so
Well,
it's like, yeah, they're gonna
I
lean
get
into,
frustrated.
like, fascism.
I hate that, like, I kind of hate, like, how this thing comes up, like, that we need to forgive more problematic shit so that people will vote better or be more politically progressive or
No, I
whatever.
completely agree.
I
with you.
hate that sentiment.
Yeah.
Even, like, because it's just one of those things where, like, you don't deserve a cookie for acknowledging that, like, women deserve equal pay or that, like,
Yeah.
there should be paths to citizenship for people or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
basic fucking, like, human rights issue it is
Yes.
that they're willing to fucking turn on because what you told them they shouldn't say, like, the word retarded.
Yes.
Or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or they shouldn't support Louis C.K.
There
or
was
whatever
that
it is.
viral video that was going around recently. I think we
That
might have even
sketch.
talked about
Yeah,
it.
exactly. That
where
shit
it's like
frustrates
this
the
lady
shit out of
being
me.
like to this white guy being like, "Will you please come save us?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, but only if I can say retard
and watch Louis.
Louis C.K. and stuff."
And it's like, here's what I'll concede. I'll concede that like when people online dedicate like hours of their time arguing in comment sections about like you liking Louis C.K. or whatever it is, that is fucking annoying. It's a waste of energy. If those people really wanted a more progressive world, instead of yelling at people for doing something they don't want them to do, they could go and do something good and positive about something they care about instead of just scolding other people. And there was a whole fucking like internet era of like scolding. It's not like it's all the way gone, but it was bad. It was like
I completely agree.
And it's one of those things where like you can be right and not like engage. You can like know that somebody's doing something shitty and not engage because like it's ultimately not worth it. And it's like a small enough thing. Like, do I think like being a Louis fan today is a shitty thing to do? Yeah, a little bit I do. I think you should like let it go. You know?
Right.
You shouldn't pay for tickets to see him, and he should just retire or whatever. But like, but do I think that's like worth alienating a person over?
Yeah.
No, I don't. Do I think they're shitty for that being a Hinge issue? Yeah, that's on them. But ultimately, like, do you want to be right or do you want to get what you want?
Yeah, and I think that we have sort of like lost the plot in terms of like the purpose of like politics and like coalescing different groups of people into like a political umbrella, right? Like you're not supposed to like be basing it off of like these sort of like minor infractions that people may or may not make, or like these, you know, like quote unquote faux pas. Like, not that like what Louis did was a faux pas.
No.
But like not understanding why you shouldn't be engaging with that kind of person.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And why it's like still harmful.
Yeah.
Like, it's just going to be impossible for most people to understand that, because most people are as dumb as these people who voted for Donald Trump.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, most people are that stupid, and so you can't have that high of expectations for humanity. Otherwise, you're either going to end up like being incredibly pessimistic and like let down, or B, you're going to end up being somebody who is like lashing out at people all the time. Yeah. Like, and yeah, nobody should be like vice versa being rewarded for like
doing bare minimum shit or like it just frustrates the hell out of me. But it is like ultimately what it comes down to is like, do you want to look good?
Yeah.
Do you want to seem good?
Yes.
Or do you want to actually do good? Do you want to affect positive change in the world?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like logic and like good arguments are not actually the most effective way of changing people's minds. Like, there's been a lot of studies done on this. You change people's minds by showing them the better part of a thing. By communicating the benefit of behaving a certain way. That's how you change people's minds. Like, communicating to them, like, this is how this would make your life better, instead of just being like, this is why you're wrong, you know? And that is just so much harder to do. It takes a lot more effort. It takes a lot more patience, and it takes a lot more like empathy. And it runs the risk of you like looking bad to some people who do think that you should just cut and dry every fucking person for every infraction they make, you know?
And that's what we're doing today.
Yeah. Well, I'm
kidding. I do think that they're like, obviously we've gotten into a lot of nuance, and I completely agree with you. But I think it's this thing, right, where people want to be performative about things rather than like actually like committed to like ideas
and thinking about like, how do I actually accomplish what I want to accomplish in the world? It's never going to be scolding people in YouTube comments. That will never be the thing.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, on the other end of it though, like back to that sort of like sketch, right, where like people will use
young white man.
Young white man.
We need you to save us.
Yeah, this like idea that identity politics is what has like created this dynamic.
Yeah.
I find that really frustrating for a number of reasons. First of all, like, I think the notion that, leftist politics in general, and like even really like the mainstream Democratic Party, like platform is like, quote unquote, identitarian more so than Republicans is like crazy.
Yeah.
It's the most identitarian party that you could possibly be. Like 89, like it's some insane, like 80 something % of their like party are white Christians.
Yeah.
Or like 95 or something. It's
Straight
an
white
insane
Christians.
high percentage of their people share one common identity.
Yeah.
That is identitarianism.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is. It's not trying to bring a bunch of people from like a broad coalition under like one umbrella. That's not identity politics. That's they're and I don't know. I find that sort of like framing of things that a lot of these sorts of people that we're talking about do to be evidence of how uninformed and ill thought out their actual perspectives are.
Identity politics, that whole thing is frustrating to me too, because it's another one of those things where like you lose people when you just shout at them about why they're wrong.
Yeah.
And you win people by telling people how they benefit from stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And when it comes to identity politics, it's like, hey, look, you need to acknowledge that the oppression that minorities face that you don't affects you.
Yeah.
Your life is worse because their lives are worse.
Yeah.
Because you can afford because you can get away with paying immigrants like below minimum wage. You will never get a pay increase as long as that labor is available, because black people can be discriminated from housing and all this other stuff. The prices can stay higher, and like the threshold to entry for different things can stay higher.
There's just so many ways
Like,
that it's like harmful, right?
And so like identity politics is an essential part of getting what you want, because there's a lot of people who claim to be like class conscious that are like, but I hate identity politics. It's like, dude, it's a class issue.
Yeah.
Like, you need to fucking think 2 steps ahead and go, oh, yeah, actually, when other people can be discriminated against, it means everything can be more expensive. And it's like, this actually affects me even if I don't care about the fact that they're oppressed for being, you know what I mean? Like, you don't even have to care. You could be racist and acknowledge, like, actually, I would make better money if everybody made better money.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
it's there's a lot of elements of it that are like so self-serving to regular everyday people still, even if you don't completely buy into them.
Right.
But nobody does a very good job of communicating that
because
to
I don't think
people.
they're interested in communicating.
Yeah,
that. I
yeah.
think that a lot of people,
They want to make themselves like put themselves on a
we have
pedestal.
all seen people use identity politics as a cudgel.
Yeah, I think we did.
Everyone knows a grifter in the
Yes,
world who
yes.
clearly just uses their identity for fucking clicks and rage bait and whatever it is, and is not interested in making the world a better place.
Yeah.
They're interested in centering their victimhood at the sake of all other issues, you know? And IVF girl. Being,
IVF
you
girl,
know, like
conservative federal worker who voted for Trump 3 times.
right. Like, I don't know. I just don't have it in me to forgive people for doing shit that is clearly like just not thought out.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't feel bad for people when I see them like fall off trampolines when they're like jumping on a scooter or whatever stupid shit. Yeah. And I don't feel bad for people when they vote against their fucking interests.
Yes.
I'm like, I feel bad for me for having to share the world with you.
Yeah.
You fucking idiot.
Yeah. No,
Please
exactly.
be better.
Yep.
I feel bad for people who have single party interests in 2025.
Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy to buy into either of them at this point.
Yeah. It
Obviously,
is crazy.
like
single issue, not single party.
Oh,
sorry.
single issue is even fucking crazier.
So here is this video. So this guy is an IRS employee, and he lives in Philadelphia. So, and he sounds really stupid. Okay.
Job. I loved helping people out. I loved doing that job. I loved helping people out. And being told that you can't go to work anymore because you haven't been there for a year. It's just kind of horrible, you know. The Taxpayer Advocate Service is already undermanned as it is. And, you know, when the case advocates are averaging over 120 cases per person and you're letting everybody go, how does that help the taxpayer?
Did you support President Trump in the last election?
Honestly, yeah, I did. I thought, you know, he would be someone that would, you know, because he talked a lot about taking care of the military, taking care of the veterans, taking care of the people that put him in office, and it just hasn't happened. So if I could go back in time, I would have voted for, you know, Vice President Harris in a heartbeat.
Yeah, dude. What a fucking ding-dong.
Fell for it again award.
Yep. He's a fucking idiot, dude. He was a taxpayer advocate. That was his job. Like, that's the thing about these people that we're talking about specifically today. You worked for the Forestry Service. You were a taxpayer advocate. Like, just say your job out loud and ask yourself, does that sound like something that Donald Trump would like? And the answer is no. Unless your job title is free speech suppressor, or like, you know, oh yeah, I'm a protest trampler, then your job is probably safe. You're probably a federal worker who wants to vote for Donald Trump, and it would be like a good thing to do. But like for you personally, but these guys are like, their job if they just had read their job title out loud.
I'm head of gender studies, federal gender studies. And I just think two gender, I guess. And so I thought Trump would do two gender, but then he fired me. How could he fire me?
Oh my gosh!
After I voted for him.
Yeah, it is just like one of those things where it's like, dude, you are.
And the fact that it's happening immediately. Like the fact that it's like he's been in office for 3 months.
And a lot of this stuff I found like weeks ago.
Yeah.
Too. So like I think there's maybe like a couple things in here that are like a little more recent. This one kind of cracked me up. I am a conservative federal worker. I voted for Trump 3 times. This narrative about federal workers being lazy and worthless is so false. Dude, why was that not setting off red flags for you during the campaign?
The amount of people who work at the IRS here in this city that voted for Trump is probably
it's insane.
It's probably staggering because it's just like these people get so fucking worked up about identity politics and about fucking culture war issues, like shit that like they're wrong about. But beyond being wrong about it, like they cannot let go of, like they can't fucking
critical race theory,
DEI,
and it's always like
transgender issues,
or phrases that like,
and it's a new one every 4 years.
Nobody
it's a new set of fucking words with some of the old ones in, but there's always like a new fucking one. It's always essentially the same thing, which is like code words for queers, blacks, and immigrants. You know, literally, it's like. Your life would be better if their lives were better.
Right.
It's like it was not at the sake of your life. Like, I cannot stress enough how straightforward it is that if everyone is protected better, you are also protected better.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just fucking crazy to me.
This guy, I mean, like, it literally is people posting their L's.
Yes.
Because he goes on to say, he's like, you know, we bust our butts every day. We are accountable for our work daily. We report exactly what we do every day, whether we are in the office or teleworking. There is no way we could get away with the things that are being said. I am all in favor of eliminating fraud and waste in government. If you can find a government worker that is supposed to be teleworking, that is home watching TV or actually working another job, then fire them. There is no way we would ever get away with that. Dude, but why did you think that, like, if you knew beforehand that there's no way anybody was getting away with what they were saying, why did you think that there were people getting away with what they were
Right,
saying?
literally.
Like it does. It's like the cognitive dissonance is insane with these fucking people.
Yeah.
That's really like what.
Well,
is-
and I think the unfortunate thing about the average human brain is that it is almost impossible to empathize with something that hasn't happened to us.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
I've been guilty of that, certainly. So, and I consider myself a pretty thoughtful person and a pretty empathetic person, and I've definitely done some shit just because I couldn't even fathom considering that other perspective. And so, like, obviously, the average person can only fucking think as far as their experience.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, when nothing that bad has ever happened to you, and the wrongs that are being done to you are like, it's like compounded and not big, like obvious wrongs, but like little wrongs that you can't like that you've never gotten a raise, and that like your taxes are going up while rich people's are going down, like all these little things that don't.
They're not borne out as like a big like dramatic loss.
Yes.
And that's
so they don't feel like victims themselves, and they can't compartmentalize the effect that these fucking decisions have on your actual fucking life. It's not a fucking like movie where you're like, I think this character is cooler. You know,
that
like,
also is like goes like along with like the fact that a lot of people will be like, well, like who's president doesn't even really matter that much. It's not going to affect my life that much. No matter who's president. And it's like, that's wrong. Like, it's only not going to affect your life because you're in a position where it doesn't affect your life, not because it doesn't affect anyone's lives.
And the other thing that, well, what frustrates me about that mentality, because that's been prevalent my whole life, this idea that, like, who's the president actually isn't that important. It's not actually going to have that. It's like, well, you know who it does affect are Iraqi children, you know what I mean, or Palestinian children, or whoever the fuck it is, the flavor of the month of who we decide to bomb that fucking year. It's like people fucking die over these decisions, and
or
they lose
like
everything,
or like the children of immigrants, like the people coming to this country from places that we destabilized, we like scourged with our foreign policy and like economic policy,
and having the gall to be like,
they're invading us.
Yeah, you're not allowed here.
Yeah,
it's like,
you're invading me. We after I actually invaded you.
Yeah, literally
did an invasion of your country. Now you're the actual invaders. It goes along with, we just recorded before this an episode with Amber about the digital nomad stuff, right? Where it's like everything that we accuse immigrants of doing, these people are like actually doing to them. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing, right? Like, whoever these people are that are quote unquote invading this country, like, go back and learn about the relationship between that country and the United States and tell me who's invading who.
Literally.
Like, it's you don't have to be a fucking genius to figure it out. It doesn't take, like, you just have to have common sense and like human decency
and
to realize it.
And the actual desire to learn something new.
Yes.
Like the actual desire to learn more.
I would bundle that into common decency probably.
I agree.
I think that's part of common decency.
I think like you should want to learn things.
Yeah.
You should want to understand the context of your world better.
Yeah. So here's another video. This is federal workers who voted for Trump. Something. I can't read exactly what it says. Brett, you want to help me out with that actually?
Who voted for Trump 3 times talks to CNN.
Okay. Here we go.
Which should be illegal. Did you hear that one?
He lost one of those.
Donald Trump says that he thinks MSNBC and CNN should be illegal.
Oh, yes, I saw that.
So here's what I will say is that I don't necessarily think that news should be illegal, but I think that like some of the way that these like, and not just CNN or MSNBC, but like these large media conglomerates operate should be illegal, but that's not what he means.
No, he means Fox News should be the only source of news.
And that's like
ONN is great too.
Oh yeah, of course,
that's how pernicious though like his populist rhetoric is. is like something like CNN should be illegal.
It speaks to a true thing.
To some
it
really,
speaks to like,
yeah,
no, news shouldn't be entertainment.
Yeah.
But that's not what he means.
That's not what he means.
But if you're
by it.
stupid,
he just means whatever. Anybody who's going against what he is dictating should be the norm. Should be illegal.
Yeah.
But this lady is Laura Coates. I just learned that. That's the lady who was doing the interview, because this is another one with the same lady who I quite enjoy her listening to these Trump supporters.
Got it.
It's kind of chill. She's like really is giving him the business with her facial expressions. Here she is.
You know, while DOJ touts its cuts to the federal government, the people being cut are speaking out, especially veterans, because yes, those cuts are disproportionately affecting vets. Federal data shows last year vets made up 28% of the federal workforce. Vets like James Diaz. James is an Army veteran who served during the first Gulf War. He voted for President Trump 3 times. He was fired last month from his job as a fuel compliance officer with the IRS at one of their field offices in Illinois. His termination letter implied that his job performance was a factor, but Diaz disputes this claim, saying all his performance reviews were positive. Diaz will be attending Trump's speech before Congress tomorrow night as a guest of his congressman, Illinois Democratic Representative Eric Sorensen. And he joins us now. Mr. Diaz, thank you for joining us today, James. You say you were treated like garbage. Walk us through what happened to you last month.
What happened?
On the 20th of February, I received a phone call from my supervisor and then a email shortly thereafter about how I was going to be terminated. And it basically cited my performance issues.
But you provided us with a performance review, and it said you were a good worker with a good knowledge of tax law. So why would they cite that as an issue?
I think it was just...
James, why would they not want somebody with good knowledge of tax law working at the IRS? Is there a reason why you could think that they would want to fire somebody who knows a lot about tax law at the IRS? Oh my God. Dude, it's like they didn't even watch anything that the guy who they voted for said at any point in time. You know what I mean?
No, they're on Facebook.
Yeah.
They hate that the world is changing.
Yeah.
They hate that people are telling them that they're bad in any way or wrong about anything. And they're probably literally like, so many of them are probably like, only 2 genders. And clicking Trump. Like, you know, no matter what they say out loud, they're like, immigrants are taking my jobs. You know what I mean? Like, they're buying into the shittiest fucking ideas. They know what they're voting for.
Yeah.
They know that those issues are bigger than the issues that they're talking. I just thought IVF is something that I thought.
And that's
it's
what
like,
I think.
You know that he hates immigrants, that he hates gay people, that he fucking wants to gut the gut. Like, you know all that shit. So you low-key like that shit.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what you're voting
at the
for.
very least, subconsciously.
Yes.
And everything else that you're saying is just you making up
excuses for why you're not actually a hateful dumbass.
Yeah, trying to deal with the cognitive dissonance that you have because you hold yourself in like one view of like not being like a racist, homophobic bigot.
Is they listen to the arguments against Kamala. That's the thing that that the people will hang on to, is not the arguments for the piece of shit they voted for, but the arguments against the piece of shit they didn't vote for. Yeah. Right? And so I think, like, you know, if everyone in your life, if your dad's a fucking Republican who watches nothing but Fox News and you want him to love you, and you're a 24-year-old lady who's been having a hard time getting pregnant, like, and he's like, well, what they don't understand about Kamala is that, you know, she wants to do this and that and transgender ducks.
She wants to give, you know, she wants to give prisoners sex change operations.
Yeah.
Which low key, when I saw that ad, I was like, dude, I didn't realize Kamala Harris was so dope. I was like, whoa.
In reality, actually, she has a record of fighting to keep transgender people in the wrong gendered jails in her career as a prosecutor.
You mean to tell me that they lied about how awesome Kamala Harris is to get people to not vote for her?
Yeah.
That's the reality that we live in, where they can tell a lie that to any person who's not a complete awful piece of shit is like, that actually sounds, you know, dude, because here's my thing. I want everybody to be able to have their sex changed.
Yeah.
If they want it, they should just be able to have it, and we can afford it in this country too. We can afford to. And then people do this thing, right, where they're like, oh, but I don't want my tax dollars to go to mutilation,
right?
To go to mutilating people. And it's like, I got some bad news for you. I have some bad news about where your tax dollars
That's
have been
kind of
going.
our number one export is mutilation. That's kind of the thing that we do the most in the world is mutilate foreigners.
Yeah,
it's like the thing we're the best at. And that we're the most proud of.
I gotta break it to you, but there are a lot of people who would like to have a word with you about your tax dollars going towards mutilation. It's insane to me. I have never thought about it like that, but yeah, that campaign ad is like at this point in time is being touted as like super successful.
Yeah,
because they and all it really was is them highlighting something that Kamala Harris was like maybe advocated for at some point, after when she was running for election.
Sure.
And she did the opposite actually. And
that's Democrats' favorite
it's
fucking
insane.
thing to do.
It's just insane though that they were able to be like, this awesome thing Kamala Harris wants to do. What a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, good point. Did you see the prisoner thing?
Yeah, literally. And so they're not thinking about all the terrible things Trump has done. They're thinking about whatever asinine thing they have to think about to justify their vote for literally Donald Trump. And it's like, I voted for Kamala with gritted teeth and malice in my fucking heart.
Yeah.
Because of all the reasons you should, genocide, support, fucking her history as a prosecutor, and
just straight up a cringe. Like even if all that other stuff didn't exist, she's not an easy lady to
listen to,
not even to listen to, but just to even like feel like you could hang out with her.
No,
you know what I mean? She's like, even just on that, you want to be able to drink a beer with them level. Like, she does not have that.
No,
you know? The way
no,
that other politicians at least have that aspect of it. You know?
Yeah.
And
Joe Biden was such a good hang.
Yeah, Joe Biden, dude. I low key do think Joe Biden would be a good hang.
I think now what we're in.
I mean, you just get ice cream with the dude. Who doesn't like ice cream?
Yeah. It's like you don't have to talk to Peepaw about what he did in the segregation South or whatever. You know what I mean? You can just hang out and eat ice cream. No, I think what bums me out, and I think this has been true for many years at this point. In a way, I think that people, the American public, typically goes with the funnier choice. Like with whichever president is actually more entertaining. And that's been going on since Clinton. Since Reagan, really. Reagan was the first version of that.
You could maybe even say JFK.
Yeah,
TV
JFK became
and people were
the first entertainment president.
Handsome.
And that just has been the trend ever since, because if you look at any given presidential election, the funnier person won.
Yeah.
You know, I'll just go from when I was a kid.
Biden is funnier than Trump, dude.
Clinton is funnier than fucking George H.W. Bush.
For
He's
sure.
way funnier than
without
fucking
a doubt.
the guy from Kansas, Bob Dole.
Yeah,
you know,
you're right. You're right.
George Bush is so much funnier than Al Gore.
Yeah.
Way more funny to watch.
Yeah,
and it's people actually, I think, get a kick out of just how bad they are as their jobs sometimes. That's part of it.
Yeah.
Obama is obviously funnier than McCain.
Yes.
He can kind of roast people.
Yes.
He's kind of quick. You know what I mean? And Mitt Romney is a wet fucking fart. You know what I mean? No one wants to be
He's
around
a Mormon.
that guy.
He doesn't even drink coffee, dude.
Donald
Or
Trump
tea.
is hilarious. It sucks how funny that fucking guy is.
Yeah.
When you aren't thinking about the horror of it all.
Yeah.
And Hillary Clinton is a bad fucking person. She literally used slave labor at her Georgia mansion when they were the governor or whatever.
Yeah.
She's a bad person, you know? And she sucks to look at and be around. When she showed up in Broad City, I turned off Broad City and I never turned it back on. The vibes were dead. You know, like, and then Biden v. Trump 2020. Oh my God, that was funny.
Yeah,
Joe
dude.
Biden's so funny when he's lost
dude.
his fucking
Corn
mind.
Pop.
You know,
remember Corn Pop, dude?
Corn Pop was a
Corn
bad
Pop
dude.
was the greatest.
Corn Pop
fucking
was a
video
bad
of
dude.
all
All right,
time.
I used to have hairy legs. And got in the
And
pool.
2020 was
and we had done
before-
4 years of Trump. He was a dead meme at that point.
2020
and then it's
was
like
before
Kamala
he-
v. Trump. You know, it's just way funnier
Yeah.
on the universal comedic
Yeah.
level that fucking Trump won a second term.
Yeah.
And because Kamala's not fucking funny or fun to be
Not
around.
at all.
And it sucks
Not
that
at
that's
all.
how the fucking pendulum swings. But it's
Yeah.
like that seems really to be how the fucking pendulum swings in this country.
And
A lot of people like this are just like, you know what? Right now I'm in the mood to own the libs. I think that seems more fun.
Yeah.
You know? And it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
and if it was Obama v. Trump, you'd be like, Obama was funny on Between Two Ferns. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I really think that's what a lot of people's brains are doing.
And dude, I think your theory of whoever is funnier is so true too, because I largely think that the reason Joe Biden was for sure going to lose to Trump in the second election between the two of them and why they had to pull him as a candidate is because it got sad.
It got too sad to look
became
at.
sad.
It wasn't just Peepaw's mixed up.
Yeah.
It was like,
Yeah.
Peepaw's not
Yeah,
gonna make it much
Peepaw
longer.
needs to go to the home.
Yeah, you know,
Peepaw
and
needs
that's
to,
not funny.
Go to the farm
Yeah,
upstate.
we're gonna need to make sure that the doors of the building Peepaw lives in lock from the outside.
Jesus Christ.
Peepaw needs to live in a secured building so that he can't escape
Yes.
and go drive in his fucking bicycle.
So it's just this thing where like I think that like and Trump so quickly has become not funny. Like this
Yeah.
is not funny.
Yeah,
and,
no.
and this guy in his stupid fucking face.
And I think that really what you like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when you say like funny, it's like not like a ha ha, like we're like getting not like funny in that you're getting joy out of it.
No,
but like
more so it's like
unbelievable.
people vote for the president the same way they voted for American Idol.
Yeah.
And for a long time, Sanjaya
Yeah.
got
I
left
think
on
that
the show.
one's gay.
Do you remember Sanjaya?
Not really.
Sanjaya was this guy in like season 5 around then. I only watched a few seasons, but I watched this season. Sanjaya was this guy who was terrible. He was a really bad singer. Maybe the worst singer they ever let through to like the actual rounds where you could vote from the phone. They voted for that motherfucker for weeks. For weeks, Sanjaya would be on the chopping block and he would win over some fucking much more talented person because it was more fun to watch. That was way more fun for the viewer than the other option. And I think that the presidency people vote the same way a little bit.
Yeah.
Subconsciously, I think they're just like, Kamala presidency sounds annoying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want to fucking see Trans Olympics or whatever they think is going to happen that they're so fucking scared of.
Trans-Olympics.
You know what I mean?
Trans-Olympics.
It's like
It sounds like a fucking.
I want to watch
Somebody
roast
would be
of
so upset about
roast of
Trans-Olympics.
libs. That's what I want.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that
truly.
sounds better. And so I just think like people kind of vote for the train wreck sometimes because
everybody likes to watch a train wreck.
They just cannot grow up mentally to the point where they understand the consequences of their actions. Like, I just think
That's
a lot of people
the
get
problems
stunted
in the world.
They just get stunted and they get incapable of just thinking even one step further than just like their immediate reaction to something.
Yeah. Well, we got one more to watch here. This is our last one, and there's no way that we're going to make it through this whole video because this guy is just too funny off the jump to be able to. But this one is also in Philadelphia. So this is back in the swing state of Pennsylvania.
Tell me what happened today.
So, I mean, I went in at my normal time. When I arrived there, you know, everybody was in a very downtrodden mood.
He was smiling about how downtrodden they were, though, because that's what he wanted. You know what I mean? Like, he kind of gets like this weird little smirk on his face when he says they're in a downtrodden mood, where he's like, he's like,
Everybody was in a very downtrodden mood.
you see it?
Yeah.
And when I went to my computer, everybody was having some technical issues. Like none of our computers were really loading up either the programs that we needed to operate or like Teams. My story is the Teams. That's kind of how I figured out that we were getting fired today. Was when I went in, I logged into Teams, and I sent you the photo of.
See, this guy is so dumb because he's talking about Microsoft Teams clearly, but like it's like, dude, you're talking like you're at your job still. You got fired.
Yeah, dude.
Nobody here knows like like there's plenty of people out there who are watching this who hear you say Teams and they're like, "What?
Yeah.
You looked at your Teams?"
Yeah.
He's just fucking like clearly has no hope of getting another job anywhere else.
What I saw when I went to log in, and that's when I left my cubicle and I went around to everybody else I work with. I'm like, "Hey, what's your Teams look like?" Some were having trouble, some were able to log in. It was very, very chaotic. There was no organization to it at all. And basically we just sat around for the rest of the day. Talk about government efficiency. We literally sat there and did nothing all day long, while we waited for our fate. So again, we got our email saying that we were fired after sitting around all day knowing we were fired. And then we turned in our equipment about an hour or so later, and then we were escorted out of the building.
What do you make of what happened to you and your colleagues today? We hear about 400 employees, including yourself, were laid off.
It's unfair.
Jesus Christ.
I was unemployed, so I was laid off. I was laid off before this job, and it took me 8 months to apply and go through all the background checks and everything I had to do to get this job. And then 4 months later, now I'm in the same boat I was in before.
Democracy was a mistake.
Dude, it really is like one of those things where I can't help but like laugh when I think about the idea of this guy. For 8 months, he's talking about it. He's like, yeah, I have to do like these background checks. They're really like doing their due diligence to like check in to me and what I got going on to make sure I'm capable to do this job. And then like alternatively being like, we got to cut all the waste out of the government or like whatever, dude. It's like he's literally experiencing the government doing their due diligence like in the process of being hired to this job. And at the same time as being like, these people are fucking
it's because they're
leeches.
Stupid enough to take at face value government made trans mice. You know what do you hear that story?
Yeah,
it's because like there's
too true though.
Millions of dollars put into putting in media out there that misleads people into thinking that like exactly the stupidest thing that they could think could happen is happening. And it's not happening. And if you thought for 2 seconds about it, you would be like, of course that's not happening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But here we are. You wanted to own the libs. You're a lib.
Yeah. Welcome to the fucking club,
Get
bud.
owned,
yeah.
Bitch.
Yeah, get owned, bitch. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I think we've kind of like, we've really clowned on these guys and made a lot of good points about their inner workings of their psyches and
when are we
how
starting
dumb
the
they
show?
are. Yeah, this is just what we do for fun.
This is warm up.
Yep. Evan, you got anything to plug?
This is coming out on the 27th.
Got it. Please follow me on Instagram. If you are watching
Come
Jakin.Off
on.
and you don't follow me on Instagram, I'm deeply offended.
Yeah,
You're doing yourself a disservice.
I'm
you really
deeply
are.
offended. It's at Evan Goldt.
Yeah.
And if you like Pokemon, and only if you like Pokemon, if you like me and you don't like Pokemon, don't do this. If you don't like me but you like Pokemon, maybe do this. Follow my YouTube here_Furret, like the Pokemon here Furret.
Yeah.
Because I'm posting tent. It's not good yet, but I have good content that I'm waiting for more followers to post.
Yeah. It's
So-
true.
So come at
I've
me.
tasted the good content.
Yeah, I nuzlocked a lasagna. Don't you want to know what that means? So if you like Pokemon, follow
Yeah.
Pokemon.
Nuzlocke to lasagna is a phrase that made people vote for Donald Trump for sure. They're like,
They
he's
got the
gonna
government nuzlocking lasagnas.
He's gonna stop him from nuzlocking the lasagnas.
But yeah, here _for it on YouTube so far, and I'm gonna start a TikTok and Instagram at some point too. So if you like Pokemon and you like me, give it a look.
Do it.
I'll be doing a Pokemon card giveaway at some point for my first 100 subscribers. So just if you like Pokemon,
Yeah.
if you like comedy, at Evan Goldt. I'll be in Joplin, Missouri.
What?
In May.
Yeah, if it's still fucking there in May. If Joplin, Missouri is still there in May, dude.
And yeah, that's what I got.
As always, you can follow this podcast at Jakin.Off.Podcast. And you can subscribe to us on YouTube. If you liked this video, subscribe, all that good stuff. And if you have anything that you think we need to see, you can send it to Jakin.Off.Podcast at gmail.com. I'll look at it at least once. So that's the rule. That's the thing. And other than that, that's Brett. You got anything?
I think it's important. This is the one Jerry Springer thought I've been able to have consciously. It's important to have those hard conversations with people that you love. And if you liked us bantering, but you have someone in your life that voted for Donald Trump and doesn't know better, maybe try to have that compassionate, hard conversation that Evan was talking about, and try to get them to understand and try to get them to be a better person. I struggle with this with a lot of people in my family, so I think it's just important for you to still try to have those difficult conversations and to get to that better place.
Do you want to look good or do you want to do good?
Yeah. Look good, play good.
Yeah.
That's Jake signing off from Jakin.Off.
Do the normal sign off.
That's it. I love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Sorry I said bitch.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody, it's me. Hey, everybody, it's me, Jake from Jakin.Off.
And I'm Frylock.
Thanks. Hey, everybody, it's me, Jake from Jakin.Off. Thanks for tuning in to another episode.